The shocking truth, how Moses' body disappeared forever after this devastating revelation. In the midst of the sprawling desert, under a sun that seemed to blister the very heavens, a secret lay buried far deeper than the scorching sands. It was a mystery that had baffled historians, scholars, and the merely curious for centuries. Moses, the great leader who guided his people to freedom, had vanished without a trace. No dust, no footprints, nothing but the whispers of the dunes. The world thought they knew the story, a powerful prophet, a dramatic exit, but what if the truth was even more shocking than anyone could fathom? What if that heavenly farewell was far darker than it appeared? The first tale that unfolded among the locals was one of eerie shadows and ghostly sightings. On moonlit nights, when the wind howled like a restless spirit, some claimed they could see a figure drifting among the rocks. Cloaked in an ethereal glow, it moved with an impossible grace, leaving behind chills that crept under the skin. Although skeptics scoffed, those who had the courage to venture out after dusk felt the tightening in their chests, the lump in their throats, as they navigated the creaking silence. Something was out there, something alive and ancient, something connected to Moses himself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the intrigue deepened. Old scrolls, hidden from the public eye, spoke of a final moment where Moses, challenged by a flicker of doubt, faced not just his mortality but a choice that would change everything. Was he truly taken up to heaven? Or was there a force at play that kept his body from resting? The locals would gather around bonfires, sharing tales laced with dread, feeling the electricity in the air as each story escalated. A sudden gasp pierced the night, a whisper of fear among friends. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the villagers' conversations flowed like the shifting sands, the air crackled with tension. What had truly happened to Moses? Was he alive, still walking amongst them? Or was he eternally lost, with only the echoes of his legend remaining? The fire in the center of their gathering illuminated faces marked by bewilderment and fear. They dared not speak the words that hung heavily in the air, yet one thing was clear: that mystery was alive and breathing, lingering just beyond the final flicker of light. The question echoed: what if the truth was hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to unravel the dark threads of the past? The night deepened, and with it came an unsettling chill, wrapping around the villagers like a shroud. The bonfire cracked and sparked, but the warmth offered little comfort. Whispers floated through the air like gossamer, threading tales of Moses' legend into a tapestry woven with fear and fascination. One elder, with skin like ancient parchment and eyes that held the weight of countless sunsets, leaned closer to the flickering flames. "I've heard things," he rasped, his voice trembling as much as his weathered hands. "Things that have haunted my dreams." The crowd gathered tighter, every face lit with anticipation. "I was a boy when the last words of Moses reached us. They say a guardian was sent to protect his body, not from the living, but from the darkness that sought to claim him." Gasps filled the circle, faces exchanged questioning glances. Dark forces? Protectors? The revelation hung thick in the air, palpable and heavy. One young man, brave but trembling, broke the silence. "What do you mean, dark forces? Hadn't he already faced enough during his life?" The old man leaned in, lowering his voice to a whisper much too intimate for the flickering fire. "Moses had power, godly power, but with it came a price. There were those who sought to harness it, to undo all he had done. When he disappeared, it was said that the ground where he stood overflowed with unearthly light, and shadows danced in defiance. Silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the wind, which howled eerily, as if echoing the torment of untold secrets. Hearts raced in the rising tension, minds racing to comprehend the implications of the elder's words. Is it true? Did he challenge these forces? Another voice quivered, curiosity battling fear. Not only did he challenge them, the elder continued, his eyes narrowing as if staring into the abyss of time itself. He may have made a deal. In returning his people to freedom, he may have traded his soul for theirs. Gasps followed, shaking the night air as fear clawed at their throats. The idea of a bargain, seemingly made to ensure a brighter future, now cast a shadow over the very notion of freedom. As the fire dwindled, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch out beyond their circle, a young woman stood up, her eyes glinting with determination. If there is a guardian, maybe there is still a way to find him. We can uncover the truth. A murmur swept through the group, the seeds of hope and dread intertwining. But the elder shook his head slowly. Some mysteries should remain buried. What you seek may only bring despair. Just then, a loud crack echoed through the darkness, sharp as a thunderclap. They turned, hearts pounding, as the ground beneath their feet trembled. The earth itself seemed to heave, and a bright flash illuminated the night for a fleeting moment. Then, as quickly as it began, tranquility returned as if the desert were holding its breath. A figure emerged from the shadows of the hills, radiant and ghostly, swathed in a luminescent aura. The fire diminished, but the figure burned brighter, a breathtaking silhouette that stirred both awe and horror. Who? What are you? The young man, rooted in disbelief, stepped back, his terror evident. A voice, deep and otherworldly, echoed through the night. You seek the truth, yet you may not wish to uncover it. Are you ready to bear the weight of history? And with that, the figure raised a hand, the desert responding instantly as it transformed around them, a vortex of light and shadows swirling, pulling at the very fabric of their reality. Would they face the truth, or would the secrets demand payment more than they were willing to give? The villagers stood at the edge of this cosmic revelation, but one thing was certain, the story was far from over, and the answers awaited just beyond the veil. The village held its breath as the figure's hand lifted higher, illuminating the darkness with a blinding brilliance that seemed to fuse with the very stars above. Shadows writhed and pulsed, writhed and twisted, as if aware that they were being summoned into the light. Gasps filled the air, a collective exhale trembling with disbelief. Suddenly, the radiant figure spoke once more. I am the guardian of secrets, it intoned, the authority in its voice resonating through the trembling hearts of the villagers. An icy tendril of fear wrapped around them, tightening with every syllable. But why? What do you want? Someone shouted, their voice breaking with the weight of intuition. The figure's gaze fell upon the young woman with determination sparkling in her eyes. You wish to find the truth behind the legend, it said, the intensity of its voice vibrating deep within their bones. But understand, the truth has a price. She clutched her throat, the lump growing as the implications burned within. What kind of price? She demanded, revealing strength even in her fear. We have the right to know. With a flick of its wrist, the guardian summoned a wave of energy that turned the very air electric. Once you grasp that truth, it cannot be ungrasped, the guardian warned. The shadows you dismiss, they carry weight. They have eyes, memory, and a hunger to remember. As it spoke, an image began to form in the air, a vision of the desert, wild and vast, pulsing with an otherworldly aura, where Moses stood with outstretched arms, a beacon of liberation. The onlookers fell silent, enchanted, before aching dread clawed at their insides. They were witnessing a moment that should have remained buried in time. The scene shifted abruptly. Moses' expression twisted in pain as a dark figure loomed over him, its shape amorphous and ominous. In that fleeting instant, fear-fueled whispers danced among the villagers. What is happening? One man shouted, his eyes wide with terror. The guardian turned its luminous form towards him. Do not look away. You need to see. Suddenly, the darkness flared to life, engulfing Moses. The villagers gasped again as swirling shadows snaked around him, clawing and tugging at his essence, as if they were trying to rip apart the very fabric of reality that he was fighting. They could see it. But in that moment, the darkness was overwhelming. Even as Moses' power flared defiantly, the air crackled with despair. The villagers could feel the weight of his struggle, it mirrored their own, then it all stilled. The vision faded into nothingness, leaving only the echo of Moses' voice, a faint whisper among the winds. I seek freedom, guardian of the shadows, but at what cost? The heart of the crowd sank. Each of them felt a chill reach deep into their core. The guardian of secrets watched with sad, ancient eyes, and the flames of the bonfire sputtered under the encroaching cold. Is that what you want to know? The guardian queried, glancing at the villagers, one by one. Are you truly prepared to face the ramifications of the choices made long ago? Do you want to stand where Moses stood and face what he faced? Quiet descended, the tension palpable as they wrestled with the weight of his words. What were they really willing to sacrifice for this knowledge? Finally, the brave young woman broke the silence, her voice a quiet promise blended with fear. Whatever it takes. We must know. With a slow nod, the guardian began to dissolve into mist, leaving behind a flicker of light that threatened to extinguish like the fading bonfire. So be it. The path to truth will not be easy. As it vanished, the ground beneath their feet shuddered again, the air thickening with urgency. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a violent ushering of fate. The villagers were left to fathom the enormity of their decision. The truth beckoned them forward, yet danger lingered like a dark halo over their heads. Little did they know that the moment they chose to pursue the truth, they had already stepped into a labyrinthine world, both illuminated and rife with shadows. A tremor of power surged through the ground, howling with nascent energy, foreshadowing a reckoning that awaited them. From the ashes of their decision, a new question emerged: what unspeakable truths would they uncover, and what darkness lurked in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed? The ground trembled beneath the villagers' feet. A haze of confusion swept over them as the guardian's words echoed in their minds. The path to truth will not be easy. It was as if destiny itself breathed down their necks. How do we begin? The young woman asked, her voice cutting through the stillness, a beacon in the encroaching dark. Suddenly, the bonfire sputtered, sending sparks flying into the night, chasing shadows that danced along the edges of the clearing. The air tasted of iron and anticipation. The villagers exchanged anxious glances, the weight of their choice pressing down like a heavy fog. One elder, his face a map of wrinkles, stepped forward. We must seek the relic, the heart of shadows, he murmured, his voice quavering slightly. It is said to hold the key to understanding the darkness that took Moses. A ripple of unease coursed through the crowd. The heart of shadows? The very name shook them. Without a word, they all shared an unspoken pact. Fear and curiosity threaded tightly together. Where do we find it? Someone whispered, voice barely above a breath. The cave beyond the cliffs, the elder replied, eyes steely with determination and fear. But beware, it is guarded by the remnants of those who sought the truth before us. A shiver ran down the young woman's spine. Guarded? What do you mean? The guardians of the cave are not mere specters, he cautioned, glancing meaningfully at the villagers. They are memories, twisted reflections of those who dared to tread the path you now choose. A realization swept through the group, a bitter taste in their mouths, the gnawing fear of facing their ancestors' failures. Could they face what had defeated those who came before them? Yet deep within her grew a shimmer of conviction, urging her forward. We have to go. We can't turn back now. As they moved toward the cliffs, the sense of being watched became palpable. The air thickened, and the world around them fell into an eerie silence, as if the night itself was holding its breath. A flicker of nervous laughter broke out, but it fell flat against the rising tension. What if they want to let us pass? One villager pondered aloud, his hands trembling. We must confront our fears, the young woman asserted, her voice a steely resolve cutting through the gathering storm that brewed inside them. We're seeking answers, and answers don't come easy. With each step, the darkness seemed to gather closer, twisting into grotesque shapes. Whispers began to surface from the shadows, echoing their doubts and fears. You don't belong here. You're not worthy. The ascent to the cave felt endless, the cliffs looming larger, soaked in gloom. With every heartbeat, they could feel the weight of generations pressing down, as if the spirits of those long gone stood beside them. They were not alone in this journey. Finally, they reached the mouth of the cave, a gaping maw leading into the darkness. General unease transformed into dread. Shadows slithered along the entry, curling back as if resisting their presence. Once we enter we might not be the same as we are now, warned the elder, his brows furrowed. This truth, it can change you. Whatever lies ahead, whatever truths will uncover, we have to face it together, the young woman said, her voice trembling but strong. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the cavern. The walls seemed to vibrate, pulsing with unseen energy, dragging the rest of the villagers into a world drenched in shadow. A sudden, chilling wind surged through the cave, and the stones echoed with the footfalls of phantoms. They were not just seekers of truth but now, unwitting players in a game that had long been set in motion, and deep inside the cave, a pair of burning eyes flickered to life, watching, aware of their presence. As the villagers strained to peer deeper into the darkness, a spine-chilling question echoed. What awaited them in the shadows, and would they survive to tell the tale? The darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. Each step deeper into the cave sent icy tendrils of fear creeping up their spines. The flickering flame from their torches cast long, jittery shadows against the stone walls, illuminating crude carvings that danced the history of their ancestors. Yet, every image told a story that sounded more like a warning than a welcome. Do you see that? The young woman whispered, pointing to a figure etched into the stone. It depicted a darkened version of a once familiar face, the guardian, twisted and ominous. The sight sent a ripple of dread through the group. Those are not just artworks, the elder murmured, his voice almost lost to the echoing void. They are memories trapped in time. What? What do you mean? Someone squeaked, their eyes wide with fear. This cave remembers those who came seeking the heart, but not all returned, he said quietly. Those who succeed become the guardians shackled to the darkness, forever. The words hung heavy in the air like a thunderclap. A sinking feeling enveloped them. They had arrived searching for answers, but the burden of those who had come before them pressed deeper. The whispers grew louder, riding on the drafts of the cave. Leave while you can. The young woman gripped her torch tighter, heart pounding. We can't turn back. Not now. With renewed determination, they pressed forward, the air growing colder around them. Flickers of light revealed an archway up ahead, draped in glowing moss. Something about it drew them in, a force both captivating and sinister. Do you hear that? Another villager said, halting in shock. Low thrumming sounds pulsed from beyond the arch. It was rhythmic, like a heartbeat, deep, foreboding. What is it? The young woman asked, fear bubbling in her throat. Maybe it's the heart. It must be close, she stammered, fighting the quaver in her voice. Yes, but is it inviting us or warning us? The elder cautioned, his features etched in uncertainty. As they stepped closer, the archway glowed ominously, illuminating dark symbols that twisted and writhed on the ground. Voices fused into a symphony of anguish and despair. You will pay for the truth. The moment hung in tense silence, straining against their senses. The young woman squared her shoulders, desperate to lead. She stepped into the archway, and the air thickened, swirling around them, nearly swallowing them whole. A strange, metallic scent tickled her nose. She pressed onward, urging the others to follow. As they crossed the threshold, time itself seemed to warp. Shadows morphed and danced wild, flaunting broken memories of those who had entered before, faces twisted in anguish, voices choked by panic. Each villager felt the weight of those lost souls pressing down on them. Then, abruptly, the turmoil ceased. The cave offered them a cavernous chamber, larger than any they had ever dreamed. Its ceiling was lost in darkness, but beneath their feet lay a pool of shimmering liquid black as coal, glistening like stars trapped in time. That's at the heart of shadows, the elder gasped, barely able to control his racing breath. But before they could approach it, the shadows coalesced around the edges of the chamber, and one massive figure emerged, its form shifting and undefined. A voice, one they recognized from dreams, boomed through the chamber with chilling clarity. "What do you seek in the depths of despair?" Every villager froze. The air felt heavy. The elder whispered, "It's here, what does it want?" Someone murmured, their voice barely a whisper of sound. "Truth and the cost of truth," the young woman said, feeling the weight of the moment crush against her. And then, in a blinding flash, the figure lunged forward, shrouded in shadows, revealing its twisting face. The guardian they thought they knew, transformed into something terrifying, a memory distorted by time. "What have you awakened?" it bellowed. The walls trembled, an echo of the dread erupting through their hearts. Now trapped at the brink of revelation, they were faced with a choice more daunting than before: uncover the truth hidden in the depths, or flee from the shadows threatening to consume them forever. But before they could make a choice, a deafening scream pierced the silence. The ground beneath them began to shift. What ancient secret would be released, and could they endure the truth that beckoned from the heart of shadows? The ground quaked beneath their feet, sending chilling vibrations through their bones. Panic sparked in the eyes of the villagers as they instinctively stepped backward, but something pulled them closer to the heart. The guardian's shadow loomed large, an anchor in the disorienting chaos swirling around them. "What do we do?" someone cried out, their voice a thin line of fear slicing through the thick air. The young woman's heart raced. "We can't let fear win. We have to confront it." She felt the heat of resolve burning her chest. But doubt clawed at her mind. Was she brave, or just foolish? The guardian's form flickered like a candle in the wind. "You wish to know the truth? Then brace yourselves, the cost is dear," it rumbled, each word weighing like stones thrown into a pond. Suddenly, the pool in front of them rippled violently, its surface shuddering as if granting life to the liquid darkness. Shapes began to rise within it, shadows of long-lost souls trapped in a cycle of despair. Faces appeared, anguished, familiar. They were the ancestors who had sought the heart before them. "Look!" a villager shouted, pointing a shaking finger. "It's my great-grandfather," and her words cut off as the figures morphed, their mouths opening in silent screams, pleading for release. As they gazed into the pool's abyss, fragments of memories flooded over them like a tidal wave, moments of triumph and terror, joy and suffering. The young woman recognized her own history threading into the fabric of the shadows. Each revelation gripped her heart tighter, twisting the knife of regret. What if we don't succeed? What if we end up like them? Another villager whimpered, eyes wide, exposing the raw vulnerability beneath the veneer of courage. The unease grew, spreading like wildfire. "We have to take that risk," the young woman snapped, her voice a lifeline slicing through despair. "The guardian is testing us. We can't turn away." The guardian's voice rose above the chaos, echoing warnings. "Your destiny hinges upon understanding the pain you bear. Each of you must acknowledge what you left behind." Out from the darkness, the guardian advanced. Its towering figure radiated a confidence they could never muster. Shadows writhed and twisted at its feet, whispering secrets of the past, igniting memories that hung like heavy fog in their minds. With trembling hands, the young woman stepped closer to the pool, intent on breaking the cycle. "I will face what I must," she declared, her voice rising defiantly against the chaos. In that moment, the liquid blackness surged, tendrils curling toward her like fingers beckoning for embrace. It was alive, waiting, hungry. "Do not underestimate the darkness," the guardian intoned, the warning resonating within her. But she leaned in, feeling the pull of her own history. The surface of the pool began to clarify, restoring images long thought lost, moments of laughter, of love, and of betrayal. Faces flickered in and out of focus. Each memory fought against the shadows trying to reclaim them. Suddenly, a scream echoed, not from the past but from the present. "Look out!" A villager stumbled backward as the shadows surged toward them, towering and ravenous, wrapping around them like a thick fog. Fear clamped around their throats as they realized the shadows were no longer content to linger in the depths. The guardian's voice shook the voice of the past, echoing their own fears. To know the truth is to confront the shadows within yourselves. The villagers clung to one another in desperate awe, hearts thundering, the truth looming larger than the shadows. Could they confront their inner demons, or would the heart of shadows consume them all? As the shadows lunged, the chamber quaked with their cries, urgent and hungry, reaching for the hearts of those daring enough to seek the truth, and there, in the cacophony, the young woman thought she heard her name echoing against the stone walls. Help me! The voice was faint, yet familiar. Will she recognize the source before it's too late? What other secrets lie lurking in the abyss waiting to be revealed? The shadows swept through the air like a tempest, clawing at the villagers. They recoiled, hearts pounding, vision blurring as they struggled against an unseen foe. Their own memories now turned against them. The young woman stood firm, though the weight of fear threatened to crush her resolve. Stay together! She shouted, the sound barely piercing the chaos. The fractured echoes of voices intertwined, creating a symphony of dread. A villager staggered back, colliding with a stone pillar. It's taking them. He pointed at the thick shadows coiling around the others. Vulnerability morphed into terror as they were pulled one by one toward the pool, toward the heart. Not yet! She yelled, reaching out for her friend even as icy fingers gripped her heart. We can fight back. But uncertainty gnawed at her. What if they were too late? What if their fears devoured them whole? The guardian reared back, its voice booming, vibrating the chamber. You must unleash your truth. Speak the names you dread, your secrets weighed down by darkness, or perish in the anguish of shadow. What if it's too much? Another villager cried, his voice quaking like a leaf caught in a storm. What if we're too broken to fight? A pause settled among them, heavy and thick with unspoken fears. The shadows pressed closer, eager for the taste of despair. And then, as if ignited by something deep within her, the young woman stepped forward, forcing herself to remember. I know my fear. She stammered, swallowing hard against the lump in her throat. It's not just about losing but about the hurt I caused, the love I lost. Her voice cracked, echoing off the stone walls. Faces turned toward her, eyes wide and yearning for clarity. The shadows flickered. One by one, the villagers began to speak. A heady mix of agony and confrontation filled the air. I abandoned my brother. A man shouted, tears streaming down his face. I let him drown. He was always better than me. Another cried. I hated him for it. As they voiced their pain, the shadows writhed, recoiling as if burned. The young woman felt a swell of determination surge through her. We're stronger than this. Together. She urged, rallying them. Let it out. Let us break the cycle. The energy shifted, light fought against the darkness. The guardian's form flickered, a flicker of hopeful fire igniting the dread. I am here! Cried a voice from within the pool, piercing through the thick veil of dismay, the voice she'd been yearning to recognize. Whisperings encircled her heart like soft hands beckoning. I am part of you. Mom. Her breath caught in her throat, an electric jolt surprising her. Memories flooded her with warmth, the laughter shared, the moments stolen, the tears shed in silence. Help me. A glimmer of her mother's face emerged from the pool, fragmented but vibrant. Don't forget what made us whole. For a moment, hope fluttered against despair. Bright light radiated from her, defying the shadows inching closer. It was contagious. Other villagers' faces began to shine as they, too, acknowledged their truths. The cacophony of pain bloomed into a chorus of revelation. But the shadows were fierce, they slammed against the light, snarling like wild beasts, hungry for the despair they tasted for too long. You think you can defy us? The guardian's voice rumbled again, dimming with doubt. Together now. The young woman rallied, the energy pulsing through the crowd. Don't falter. The pool roared with resentment, dark waves swelling. Tendrils lunged toward her with renewed ferocity, driven to silence the growing light. Grasp your truth. The guardian implored, a desperate urgency lacing its words, but just as they gathered strength, a piercing darkness erupted from the depths, a monstrous shadow, larger and more menacing than any that had come before. It surged with an angry howl, the chilling howl of lost souls echoing through the chamber. The villagers gasped, retreating in fear. What is that? A voice trembled. More than we've faced. She yelled, resolute in the face of overwhelming dread. Was it too late to turn the tide? The darkness loomed ominously, an ancient wrath ready to consume all. Would their budding light withstand this new onslaught? And could they ever find out what it truly meant to confront their past? The monstrous shadow rolled forward, a thick wave of midnight intent on engulfing everything in its wake. An unholy roar filled the chamber, shaking the very stones beneath their feet. The villagers felt it deep in their bones, a primal dread that made their hearts race and their breaths hitch. Hold the light. The young woman cried out, her voice rising above the chaos. She forced herself to step forward, tighter fists, fragile hope flaring within. We won't let it take us. But as the darkness crashed against their light, the unity they had forged felt like a fading candle. Flickers of brightness dimmed, one by one, as whispers of doubt crept through the crowd like poison. It's not enough, it's too strong, a woman murmured, her voice quaking as tears streamed down her cheek. No. You must remember. The young woman shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. Remember your truths. Let it out, don't hold back. The guardian momentarily faltered, and the shadow stuttered. The light wavered, but it wasn't extinguished. With a sudden burst, someone broke through the fog of despair, a young man raising his voice. I failed my family. I let them down when they needed me most. I never told her how I felt. Another villager cried. How can I forgive myself? As they spoke, the shadows quaked, each word a beam piercing through their terror. Anger surged, the darkness trembled, and for brief moments, the villagers felt their courage rekindling in the light. They were close now, they could feel the warmth of their shared truths pushing back against the looming dread. Keep going. The young woman urged, sensing the shift. We're breaking through, don't stop. But just then, the monstrous shadow expanded, throes of desperation and rage bleeding from its form. It surged forward again, vicious and unyielding, targeting her specifically. Tendrils lashed out like angry serpents, each one dripping with venomous despair. No. She screamed, dodging one strike, then another. Her heart raced as she felt the icy breath of defeat whisper in her ear. The touch from the darkness was a chilling reminder of her deepest fears. Would she become lost as well? But then she felt it a soft warmth caressing her heart. It was her mother's voice again, echoing through the storm, muffled but resolute. You are strong, you are not alone. Her mother's words ignited a fierce fire within her. She took a step back, lifted her chin, and raised her arms. I will not be defined by my fears. She shouted. I remember the love. The joy. It was real. And I will hold on to it. The air vibrated with her declaration, and the light pulsed, swelling fiercely around her. One by one, the villagers joined in, their voices rising, echoing their truths. I am worthy. I am loved. They stood shoulder to shoulder, hands linking. The monstrous shadow howled, twisting in immense fury, the ground shattering beneath its weight. Suddenly, tendrils of darkness faltered, retracting uncertainly. The villagers pressed forward, unified in their choir against despair, fearless in their vulnerability, yet just as they seemed to gain the upper hand, a chilling silence fell over the chamber. The guardian's form flickered uncontrollably, and the shadow roared louder than ever, a cacophony of pain. You foolhardy mortals! It thundered, a voice like gravel scraping against stone. You dare challenge the essence of your own soul? A flash of realization surged through the crowd. Their struggles weren't just against the shadow, they were wrestling with every regret, every lost memory. The air thickened with suspense. How could they possibly win against something so dark, so deeply entangled in their own minds? Would the truth, emboldened, persist against the looming threat? With the shadows growing more furious, the young woman felt a jolt of fear course through her veins. But even as terror crept back into her heart, she stood strong. We will conquer this. Unified, we create a force it cannot contain. Could they really confront the ancient shadow, or would they spiral into despair once more? As shadows struck again with merciless fury, the outcome hung by a fragile thread, suspended in the depths of their reckoning. The air grew thick with dread as the monstrous shadow lunged, its tendrils slashing through the growing light. A collective gasp erupted from the villagers, their faces pale, eyes wide with terror. Yet amid the chaos, the young woman held her ground, fueled by the voices of those beside her. Don't give in, she shouted, her voice rising above the roar. Think of everything that matters. Of every moment that made us who we are. The villagers began to chant their truths again, fierce determination stirring in their hearts. But the shadows laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound like thunder, mocking their effort. Your truths. It sneered, dark tendrils coiling like snakes. They're frail, just like you. Each of you is a mere flicker in the abyss. Fear flooded over them as the chill of despair tried to seep in once more. Each time a villager spoke, the shadow grew quickly to disrupt them. A villager cried out, I lost my father. How can I remember him in this darkness? Suddenly, the shadow twisted and darted, striking the young man directly. He collapsed, gasping for breath, as a wave of despair swept through the group. Hold on. The young woman pleaded, her heart racing. Your grief is real and it matters. Bring that pain. Turn it into light. But the fight was becoming overwhelming. From the back, a voice trembled, what if we fail? What if we lose everything? It was a simple question but one that echoed loud in their minds. Doubt snaked through the crowd, and for a moment, she saw their resolve waver. Every moment of failure has led us here, she declared. Those moments don't define us. They guide us. In response, the shadow hissed in frustration. It unleashed a wave of darkness that nearly swallowed the chamber whole. The villagers blinked against the oppressive weight, the light flickering between them like a stuttering heartbeat. Suddenly, the young woman called on a memory and image of her mother holding her hand, her laughter ringing through the air like a melody. Remember the joy. She shouted, her voice breaking, but steady. Those moments wrapped in warmth. We can hold on to them. The light pulsed, igniting a fierce glow around her, and as she spoke, memories of love flooded back, voices began to rise again, raw and honest. I remember my first kiss. One man said, his voice shaking but stronger now. I remember my mother's smile. I fought for this. And with every shared piece, the shadows recoiled, twisting away like smoke under high heat. The young woman felt newfound strength surge through her veins, light surrounding her, gathering energy from each voice. But the shadow, more furious than ever, reeled back, forming into a massive vortex. You think sharing your pain will save you? It bellowed. Pain binds you to me. And I will take your light. The ground trembled, fissures cracking through the center of the chamber as the guardian flickered and roared, its form bending and snapping like a broken branch. The villagers feared for their very lives as the shadow unleashed one last desperate attack, forcing them backward. Keep together. She shouted, through the chaos. We have to concentrate our light. Remember why we fight. Yet a deeper truth began to dawn on her. What if it wasn't merely their pain they needed to lift, but something darker and more personal? Something buried deep within each of them, something that the shadow fed on. With that terrifying thought lingering, the air became thick with uncertainty. Would they decipher their own darkness before it consumed them whole? As they faced the swirling mass of shadow, a chilling silence embraced them, amplified by the realization that the impending battle was not just against an external force. She took a deep breath, feeling the tremor of fear ripple through her. Was her own heart as dark as the shadow stalking them? The villagers held on tightly, light trembling but defiantly glowing. The moment stretched interminably, and as the darkness surged forth, they braced for the truth that would inevitably shape their fate. What would they uncover in this clash of light and shadow? Would courage hold firm, or would despair claim their souls? The chamber rumbled like a thunderstorm, vibrating with the conflict between light and darkness. The villagers, hand in hand, stood unwavering, hearts racing, as shadows twisted and writhed before them like a restless beast. The monstrous figure loomed larger, dark tendrils reaching for them with a ferocity that sparked sheer panic. The guardian's voice trembled through the air, a silent plea hidden in its gravely tone. You must confront it, or risk becoming part of the shadows. The young woman felt a fierce determination surge through her. We have to remember who we are. She shouted, rallying her comrades. Do not fear the darkness. We've come too far to back down now. Around her, the faces of the villagers steadied. One by one, they began to share pieces of their past, the laughter long gone, the love frozen in time. I remember my sister, one man stammered. She always believed in the goodness of the world. The shadow jerked, as if it were struck. He was my everything, another voice cracked. And I never told him. The shadows hesitated, flickering with uncertainty. Watching the tendrils recoil gave the young woman hope. Together. She called. Each truth lights a spark. Don't hold back. And they didn't. Voices rose in a crescendo, heartfelt confessions washing over them, pushing against the oppressive weight of despair. I let my friend down. A woman cried, eyes wide with grief. But I remember our laughter. With every shared memory, the shadows shrieked and writhed, tearing at the seams of darkness. The guardian flickered beside them, merging with their light. Each soul is a beacon. It boomed, pushing back against the encroaching dark, its essence intertwining with the growing warmth. But just as they felt they might turn the tide, the shadows surged once more, swirling like a tempest. You are mere flickers. It bellowed, voice echoing off the stone walls, dark power rippling through the air, threatening to tear them apart. You belong to me. No. They shouted, the collective strength of their voices shattering through the chaos. A fiery light ignited between them, creating a barrier that pulsed with every heartbeat. The very air around them shimmered. Remember. The young woman urged. Remember your joys, your loved ones. They don't define you by your pain but by everything you mean to them. In that moment, they each seized their truths, clearing away the doubts shrouding their hearts. I loved fiercely. Shouted one villager, recalling a smile. I cherished every moment. Another proclaimed, tears flowing freely into the darkness. As their truths rose together, tendrils of shadows recoiled forcefully, and the room began to swell in blinding light. The guardian guided them, its form fluctuating like fire caught in the wind. You are not alone. It declared triumphantly, joining the chorus of voices, merging strength into their hearts. The monstrous figure roared again, but even this time, something had changed. The light swirled in vibrant hues, illuminating their shared history, pushing back against the gnashing darkness. They rushed together, feeling the pulsating energy merge into a singular force, a mighty wave of brightness flooding toward the shadow. Clarity poured into their minds as they pushed through, resolute in their determination. We are light. They cried together, overtaking the shadows before them. The darkness shrieked in agony, its grip shattering like glass. In a final clash, an explosion of light erupted as the shadows surrendered, dissolving into vapors of trembling defeat. The ground settled beneath them, and an electric serenity washed over the chamber. They stood there, breathing heavily, eyes wide, hearts racing, sunlight pouring through the crevices above, illuminating the once foreboding cavern. As the echoes of their conflict faded, silence blossomed, a profound, soothing stillness that enveloped them tightly. The guardian, its essence shimmering faintly, regarded them with gratitude. You faced the abyss and emerged whole. In knowing your truths, you have severed the ties to the darkness. Always remember this. Strength. The villagers looked around, realizing that what they sought wasn't just the heart of shadows, it was clarity, acceptance, and freedom, a legacy to share, not buried in fear. With solemn nods, they began to exit the chamber, hearts light with newfound understanding and solidarity. For the first time, they embraced each other fully, the warmth of connection igniting fresh hope among them. The journey had changed them. It marked a beginning, not an end. As they emerged into the light of the desert sun, a sense of triumph pulsed through the group. They had confronted their pain but reclaimed their joy along the way. Real truths wove a bond among them, illuminating the desert path ahead. They turned to the horizon, navigating their futures with the wisdom they had unearthed from the shadows. Hand in hand, they took a collective breath and stepped forward into life's embrace, and so, their story does not end here, it lives on in sharing and remembrance. The secrets buried in the sands may never be unearthed entirely, but their truths, those belong to them, irrefutably shining. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will grab your heart. Smash that like button and feed the algorithm, or you might miss out. And I want to hear from you. Flood that comments section with your thoughts on the ending and what it means to you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because true fans know the way to keep the fire of this journey alive is by supporting each other.